I've had this physical copy of Drakengard for probably 8 odd years or so because my friend Richard bought it for me when the Rite 8 on 8 and Newburgh was closing down, and for some fucky ass reason they had a couple PS2 games still stocked. Now, the only Yoko Taro game I've played previous was Nier Automata, a game that I really loved at the time, but have since cooled on a little bit. My general knowledge of the first Drakengard is that the game actually factually fucking sucks, but it has pervert sicko catnip inside if you're that type of diseased in the head. And they are right! This game fucking blows! The combat is horrifically repetitive. The draw distance for enemy pop-ins is too shallow, meaning you have to open up your main map to figure out what direction you head in. The mini-map is also too shallow to guide you towards enemy groups. You need to use the mini-map because the camera control of this game was made by a freak. The right analog stick pivots the camera's view, but not in relation to your controls or direction, making it almost meaningless. You have to recenter the camera by hitting L2 to guard. You will want to recenter the camera because fucking get this. The L1 and R1 dodge rolls will send you in the direction the camera is facing instead of the direction the player is facing. The Dynasty Warriors light attack string into heavy attack ender system only allows specific attacks, denoted with a flash, to have a heavy ender, which mostly works but also feels clunky like everything else. And maybe most damning of all, the game runs out of interesting enemy encounters or designs almost immediately and pads every single level up by having you complete objectives like eliminate these 14 slightly beefier than normal enemy group leaders, or take down these 8 big boys that have 9 times more health than they should, while still posing basically no threat because the combat system in this game is fashioned out of sticks and twine. It's fucking amazing. I could not stop playing it. As if this is somehow a new development, I do suffer from the type of sickness that made me fall head over heels for Drakengard. Don't get it twisted, everything I said above is a real complaint that drags down the actual playing of this game, but I was able to find enjoyment in all of that, plus some of the things that it maybe does well. You equipped a loadout of 8 weapons, all of which can be upgraded to level 4 through racking up kills that make their combos and magic attacks stronger. You also get this is a little faux pas because it predates the game, but it's the best reference point, Dark Souls stories for each weapon that continue as they level up. There are a fucking stupid amount of weapons to find and level, and all previous stages can be revisited so you can hunt for or grind them. This Dynasty Warriors Muso is also only one game mode in Drakengard, as you can lay siege to ground troops with your dragon or get in separate flight combat stages where you blast down foes with your magical might. While these flight combat stages are among the best controlling parts of the game, like honestly I think these are legitimately great, they are also shorter by magnitudes of 20. Some of these stages are over in less than 5 minutes. Which is good because that's really just how long they should be, but then you go back to Patty McPadded ground sequences that feel like they are sucking your soul out through a bendy straw. So yes, this game runs like penis, has some decent systems bogged down by many clunky ones, and feels as though it had to pad the game after the first hour because any interesting design ideas come almost to a crawl after starting it. To reiterate, I loved it. And that's because of everything that has to do with the story and presentation. I cannot say this is the best soundtrack I've ever heard, but it is probably the most interesting. It is composed by Takayuki Aihara and Nobuyoshi Sano. Yes, that's right, the fucking Street Fighter EX guy and the motherfucking Ridge Racer and Tekken guy. And what did these two titans create? Drakengard's soundtrack is orchestral music chopped, sampled, remixed, and layered over itself to create possibly the most mentally unstable European war dances imaginable. There is an obvious and purposeful lack of care to smooth over samples and loops. You will hear auditory breaks and pauses, and it feels like the music is skipping. It's often harsh on the ears, and it does so with reason. The soundtrack in this game is trying to get across what murderous insanity feels like, because an insane murderer is who you are controlling. character Kaim is what you get when a game asks you to slaughter hundreds on hundreds of enemies. He isn't some noble hero slicing through fodder to save the day. He is notably bloodthirsty and revenge-fueled. He has never once thought about taking a life, and he is likely insane in the literal sense of the word. I say likely because maybe 30 minutes into the game, Kaim loses the ability to speak. Kaim is injured by an attack, and while he continues to fight with a big-ass sword slice in his back, he finds the red dragon in equally dire straits. They both know their numbers are likely up, so they form a pact to combine their strength. But this pact has a price. Kaim loses his voice. The dragon becomes the main talker in this game, and while she speaks in Kaim's place, she definitely doesn't speak for him. Your mindless slaughtering will often be interrupted by the dragon or other characters to banter. And this is, as far as I can tell, a Yoko Taro thing, as it happens a lot in Nier Automata 2. But it works so much better in Drakengard. You see, Nier Automata has an actually functional combat system, so I had to do a modicum of focusing when playing it, which meant that I wasn't all that happy about doing boss battles and trying to read a conversation at the same time. But because Drakengard borders on as lifeless as possible, each one of these interruptions is welcomed. I don't want to say too much about the actual story for spoilerinos, but it has no problem being very out there. I've joked a couple times about the dragon's views on incest. You know what? Never mind. Let me just go read my own banger tweet real quick. Drakengard is a game where you do the same combo against enemies who pose no threat and have 9 times more health than they should, while a dragon goes, "Truly, I have never bore witness to the type of darkness that lies in the heart of man. Who can say if incest is a good or bad thing?" Like, minor spoilers, but kinda not really. I feel like a lot of this game is insane. In like the more literal sense that the internal sanity has slipped and cracked and things both do not make full sense and are tinted with a level of madness. Plot points kinda come and go in a haphazard way, not fully making sense until you go back and unlock additional story beats that maybe help but also introduce more insanity. This feeds into the thing Yoko Taro games are known for, the multiple endings. And this is where Drakengard gets infamous. The first 4 endings can be gained with relative linear ease, but the 5th and final ending requires you to collect every weapon in the game, a task that takes a stupendous amount of time and is basically impossible without access to a guide. No one recommends that you do this. It's such a boring tax upon your life, so just look it up on YouTube. Don't waste your existence collecting 60+ weapons in this game to access that final ending. But I did that, because I think this game is a masterpiece. Drakengard feels like it bounces between art and outsider art. Occasionally it does something so amazing, like the Dragonflight levels or the soundtrack. Often it does something utterly head-scratching and not at all how anyone competent would ever do it, like how grounded dodging works or the awful sensation of swinging any of the heavy weapons. I don't think I fully buy into the idea that this game is bad on purpose, that the game is making statements about violence and slaughter by making you, the player, go through mind-numbing combat to see all of its content. Nor do I fully think that there was a grand point that wraps up the entire game in a satisfactory way. I think this game would be worse if any of that was true. Instead, I love this game because it simply exists in a lane that no other game would. It feels like they knew some aspects of this game were winners, some aspects of this game were losers, and they didn't have the time or money or skill to fix it. And their solution was just to say, fuck it, we ball. I wish I could talk about this more. I wish I had it in me to do a full video about Drakengard, but it's really not my format. Because Drakengard is something so special, it feels like it deserves a big video. This is not something I can recommend to everyone, but it's one of the best games I played this year. You need to be a certain type of person to lock in with Drakengard. No shame at all if you bounce off of it, but if you can hang with Drakengard, you can appreciate just how different of a game this is than anything else you've ever played. I think that's why I love it so much. It's one of one. There's nothing else like Drakengard. No one else would make Drakengard. If any other studio had a half-done Drakengard in their lap, they would do something to fix it up. I have played a lot of bad games. I do not think Drakengard is a game that is bad. I think it is a game that is insane.